The next issue begins where we see the cured Thor and Black Widow battle the infected horde sent by Jasper in the city streets. The madman would look on and remark that he was quite disappointed at this display of power, for it lacked the pizzazz of the full Avengers team. His desire for glamour would soon be answered, where he was met by Iron Man, Captain America, and Hawkeye, who responded to the scene despite being slowly overtaken by his new strain of virus. Claiming that he had hangovers worse than this disease, Stark prepped his repulsor blast, demanding for the scientist to turn over the cure. Still donning his defiant grin, Jasper merely flicked his hand where he summoned his horde of infected, who soon surrounded our heroes. Rather alarmed that this anime hippie could full-on control the zombies, Tony prepared to open fire, declaring that they had no other choice. Before he could start popping headshots, the man was immediately stopped by Cap, who told him that he refused to let these innocent people die and that there was still hope to save them. Taking a different plan of action, Steve asked Jasper just what he wanted, where the scientist remarked that all he desired was for Tony to go back to the man he once was, the Merchant of Death, who made glorious weapons of mass destruction. Promising that he would call the zombies back if Tony agreed, Jasper looked on at Stark, who paused and looked on at the destruction that his crazed admirer had caused. Calmly yet firmly, the hero responded with a mere no. Admitting that this was quite a shame, Jasper summoned even more of his army, where we see the rotted Legion make their way upon the Avengers. Preparing to attack, Captain America soon saw a surge of energy come out of nowhere and blast two zombies behind him, immediately immobilizing them. Wondering just what happened, Steve turned where he was met by Dr. Amano, armed with a pretty sweet-looking laser gun of some kind, where she too joined the fight against her demented sibling. As they went in to engage, Tony told Bruce Banner to stay hidden so he can avoid getting infected and hulking out again, only to realize something was wrong. Bruce was nowhere to be found. Much to Tony's horror, he would look on past the sea of monsters, only to see that Jasper had managed to apprehend the poor doctor, where the pair slipped off into the night. As he would come to, Bruce would awaken in a kind of romantic situation where he would be handcuffed to a wall and face his kidnapper. Telling the dude he could literally turn into the Hulk at any moment, the romantic tension would get even fiercer as Jasper would slam the dude against the wall and present a syringe, claiming that it was yet another strain of the virus, one that Banner did not have the cure to, and if he were to turn, he would infect him once more and loose him upon his friends. Asking just why he was being held here, Jasper then answered by saying that he actually needed Banner's brilliant mind to aid in something. With Bruce believing this was a request to merely spread the virus even further, Jasper admitted that this was not quite the case, as the virus would soon spread over this world with or without their intervention. Asking just what he wanted then, Jasper admitted that it was something else. Giving Banner's relationship with Tony, Jasper wanted the dude to basically be his wingman and personally convince him to go back to making weapons. Seriously, dude? This would be like someone kidnapping Joji's friend and starting a zombie invasion just to get him to go back to being Filthy Frank. It's not happening, man. Saying this was definitely not happening, as Tony never listens to him as it is, Banner witnessed Scott out of nowhere mysteriously slam into a set of vials. Taken aback at this weird behavior from an already weird guy, Bruce asked if he was alright, where we see Jasper's pupil mutilate into a reptilian-esque shape, telling the man that this was none of his concern. Taken a bit aback that he may have just seen Mark Zuckerberg's secret lizard brother, he asked Jasper just why he wanted Stark to return to making weapons, where the scientist then said that he needs Tony to save himself and ultimately everyone on the planet. Running out of time, a frantic Scott shoved the needle in Banner's face, demanding for him to cooperate. Being the man of honor he was, Banner still refused, saying that only Tony could make this decision. Grabbing Jasper's hand, Bruce pulled him closer and asked to be infected, being fully confident that his allies would stop him and put an end to this madness. Infuriated, Jasper made his way upon Banner, where instead of hitting him, he muttered something into the man's ear, which shocked him to his core. Before we could figure out what was said, we see an explosion rock the building, where we see Iron Man and the others arrive to finally save their friend. With the rapidly decaying billionaire asking what he missed, he freed Banner, where he went to capture the crazed Dr. Scott. Once again telling the man that he absolutely was not going back to making big things go boom, the angered Jasper screamed at him, asking just why he stopped this brilliance, where the man admitted that this brilliance was the problem and that his weapons did more harm than good. It is here where I personally kinda agree with Scott, where he argued back saying that if you have a big enough weapon, no one will threaten you, and that Tony's suit is literally covered in weapons. It's a decent argument. I mean, come on Stark, hook me up with a suit too. Arguing that 6 Avengers was not enough to protect the world, Jasper said that weapons can at least be mass-produced to help more people. Seeing through his insanity, Tony realized that Jasper's intentions were actually pure, and that he genuinely cared about saving the world. Despite this though, he admitted that these weapons in the hands of bad people was something that he could not tolerate. This must have finally made something click, for Jasper's whole composure then changed, where he apologized to Stark, saying that he misjudged him. Glad to see that he finally got across to the guy, he asked if he'd be willing to help clean up this rather big zombie invasion in the streets below, where out of nowhere, the man would crash through a window and go to make his escape. Swearing that this was not the end, Jasper would dash away until he finally came face to face with his sister Toshiko, who he had betrayed all that time ago. With Amano telling the man to stop this insanity, we see Jasper, caked in sweat, begin to keel over in pain. With Toshiko running to her brother's aid, Bruce immediately stopped her, saying that he was too far gone in his infection and he could not run the risk of her becoming infected again. In a disturbing turn of events, we see Scott's body twist and contort until he turned into an enlarged and grotesque variant of infected. Looking on as he turned into a rip-off Resident Evil final boss, he screamed at the heroes not to look at what he had become. Asking Jasper how this happened to him, we then discover the truth. All that time prior at the lab, where he had repaired his severed fingers with the Chitauri DNA, this was the exact moment that Scott had become infected, making him patient zero of this world's Marvel Zombies virus. With Amano asking just why he never told her, as she could have helped, Scott told her that no one could have been capable of stopping this transformation. For months, he had searched for an antidote, but to no avail. No matter what he did, there was nothing he could do to stop this day from coming. Accepting that his death was inevitable, he decided to see just how far this virus would go and wished to unlock its full potential, making him what we see now. Being cut off mid-monologue, Scott was smacked across the face by Toshiko as she pleaded for her brother to awaken from this nightmare. Amidst the chaos, A frightened woman would see Jasper and believe he was a monster, only for the madman to become enraged and tell her not to look at him. With Cap telling the lady to stand back, he flung his shield at Scott, who effortlessly smacked it aside, where he then lunged at the woman, saying that he was not a monster. Honestly, bro, you're kinda checking all of the definitely is a monster boxes for me. Believing she was about to meet her end, the woman held her child close, only to be met by the friendly face of Dr. Amano, who asked if she was alright. With the woman breathing a sigh of relief, Amano confirmed that everything was okay, as the Avengers were here to help. It is here that we would see everything was far from okay, as when Toshiko leaned in to help, we see that Jasper's attack meant for the woman had struck her, where we see a massive bloodied gash in her back. With the horrified Avengers looking on, they screamed Amano's name as she passed out in a pool of her own blood.